Daniel Roberts, a successful real estate agent in the city, sat in his office on the 25th floor, overlooking a sprawling cityscape. His office, filled with the symbols of his success, was a stark contrast to the personal life he felt was slipping away. Married for 15 years to Carol, a dedicated pediatrician, they were a power couple on the surface, but lately, Daniel had felt a growing distance between them. Their 15th wedding anniversary was approaching, and Daniel decided to rekindle their romance by planning a surprise vacation to a secluded island resort, reminiscent of their honeymoon in the Maldives. He hoped the getaway would bring back the warmth and closeness they once shared. Meanwhile, Carol, overwhelmed by her demanding job at the hospital, was unaware of Daniel's plans. She treated her patients with care, her mind often on the growing gap between her and Daniel, promising herself to make more effort to connect during their upcoming weekend together. At home, Daniel prepared Carol's favorite dinner, salmon with asparagus and a light dill sauce. He set the table with candles and dimmed the lights, creating a romantic atmosphere to surprise her with the vacation news. When Carol arrived home, tired yet appreciative of the effort, the couple shared a tender moment, reconnecting over the meal. During dessert, Daniel revealed his surprise. "Carol, our anniversary is coming up, and I've planned something special. I booked us a week on Isla Escondida, just the two of us, no distractions, just time to enjoy each other's company." Carol, touched by his thoughtfulness, felt a mix of joy and relief. "Daniel, that sounds amazing. I can't wait to spend some peaceful time together," she responded, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. As they cleaned up after dinner, their home filled with laughter and conversation, Daniel felt hopeful. He believed this trip would mark a new beginning for them, unaware of the challenges that lay ahead. This first page sets the stage for a story about reconnecting and facing unexpected challenges in a marriage that may seem perfect from the outside but is starting to show signs of strain. The next morning, Daniel left for work earlier than usual, still buoyed by the optimism of the previous evening. Carol, on her day off, decided to catch up on some medical research and paperwork she had been postponing. The peace of the morning was disrupted when she received a call from Jacob, a colleague from the hospital. He needed her consult on a challenging case involving a rare pediatric illness. Grateful for the distraction from her paperwork, Carol agreed to meet him at a nearby cafe to discuss the details. As they sat discussing the medical case, Jacob's demeanor changed. He became less formal, sharing personal stories and gradually steering the conversation away from work. Carol felt a twinge of discomfort, but dismissed it as Jacob being friendly. After all, they had worked closely for years, and she considered him a trustworthy colleague. They parted ways with Carol feeling a mix of relief and unease, unaware that Daniel, who had come to the cafe on a business meetup, saw them together. Daniel, who had observed their laughter and casual touches from a distance, felt a pang of jealousy and doubt. The image of Carol laughing with Jacob clashed with the distance he had felt between them lately. Shaken, he returned to his office, his thoughts racing. Was there something more going on, or was he just being paranoid? Unable to shake his discomfort, Daniel decided to confront the situation head-on. That evening, when Carol returned home, he asked her casually about her day. Carol, unaware of Daniel's observations, mentioned her meeting with Jacob in passing, focusing more on the complex medical case they discussed. Her nonchalant mention of Jacob did little to alleviate Daniel's growing suspicions. Later that night, while Carol was in the shower, Daniel's curiosity got the better of him. He went through her phone, something he had never felt compelled to do before. His heart raced as he scrolled through her messages. Most were work-related, but a few from Jacob were more personal in tone, discussing not just work, but also their thoughts and feelings. Daniel felt a cold wave of betrayal wash over him. The messages were not explicitly romantic, but the intimacy they suggested was undeniable. Conflicted, Daniel struggled with what to do next. Part of him wanted to confront Carol immediately, to demand explanations and understand what these messages meant. Another part of him feared that such a confrontation could be the end of their marriage, especially if his suspicions were unfounded. He decided to wait, to see if more evidence would present itself, or if Carol would come clean on her own. The decision tormented him, filling him with a sense of helplessness and betrayal. He lay awake that night, watching Carol sleep, wondering about the woman he married, the secrets she might be keeping, and the future of their relationship. The doubt and suspicion set the stage for the unfolding drama, as Daniel grapples with his emotions and the potential ramifications of what he discovered, reflecting the complexities and challenges of trust within a marriage. The next few days were a blur for Daniel. He maintained a facade of normalcy, going about his daily routines while his mind churned with doubt and suspicion. Carol, oblivious to Daniel's inner turmoil, continued her work with the same dedication, her occasional mentions of Jacob sounding louder in Daniel's ears each time. As the day of their departure approached, Daniel's mixed emotions reached a peak. The thought of spending a week in isolation with Carol both excited and terrified him. He wondered if the trip, intended to bring them closer, might instead force issues to the surface that they weren't prepared to handle. On the morning of their flight, Daniel decided he could no longer keep his feelings bottled up. While packing their bags, he turned to Carol with a determined look. "Carol, we need to talk about Jacob," he said, his voice steady but his hands trembling slightly. Carol looked up, surprised by the sudden shift in tone. "What about Jacob?" she asked, a frown forming as she tried to read Daniel's expression. "I saw you two at the cafe the other day, and I've seen the messages," Daniel confessed, watching her closely for any sign of deception. "Is there something going on that I should know about?" Carol's eyes widened with shock, and then a deep sadness crossed her features. "Daniel, it's not what you think," she stuttered, her usual composure slipping. "Yes, we've been talking more lately, but it's mostly about work. He's going through a tough time, and I've been trying to be a supportive friend." Daniel felt a wave of relief at her words, but the seed of doubt was not completely washed away. "But why didn't you tell me? Why did I have to find out by seeing you together or by reading your messages?" he pressed, needing to understand. Carol sighed, a look of regret passing over her face. "I didn't think it was important. It was just work and friendly support. I didn't realize it would come across as something more. I'm sorry I made you feel this way." The room was thick with tension as they both processed the conversation. Finally, Daniel nodded slowly. "I believe you, Carol, but we need to be more open with each other. This should never have been something I discovered on my own." Carol agreed, her voice soft. "You're right. I should have been more transparent. I promise to be from now on. Let's not let this ruin what we have." With the air somewhat cleared, they finished packing in silence, each lost in thought. As they drove to the airport, the physical distance between them in the car mirrored their emotional distance. Daniel wondered if this trip could heal the wounds that had opened up so unexpectedly, or if it would deepen them. Upon arriving at the resort, they were greeted with breathtaking views and serene surroundings that seemed a world away from the cold tension that had set in between them. As they settled into their room, Daniel proposed an idea. "Let's make a pact to be completely honest with each other this week. No holding back, no secrets," he suggested, hoping it would restore the trust that had been shaken. Carol nodded, squeezing his hand. "I'd like that. Let's start fresh here. We owe it to ourselves to try." As the sun set over the island, casting a golden glow over the ocean, Daniel felt a cautious optimism. This week would be a test of their love and commitment. The beauty of the island promised a new beginning, but only time would tell if they could overcome the shadows that had followed them into paradise. As the sun rose over Isla Escondida, casting a soft light across the tranquil sea, Daniel and Carol woke to their first full day on the island. They had arrived under the weight of recent revelations, but the stunning beauty of their surroundings offered a temporary respite from their troubles. After breakfast, they decided to start the day with a walk along the beach. The soft sand underfoot and the rhythmic sound of the waves created a peaceful atmosphere that seemed to invite openness and honesty. "Carol, I've been thinking a lot about us, about how we used to be so in sync with everything," Daniel started, breaking the silence between them. "Somewhere along the way, we lost that connection. I miss it. I miss us." Carol listened intently, her heart aching at his words. "I miss us too," she admitted, her voice tinged with sadness. "I got so caught up in my work and being there for everyone at the hospital that I didn't realize I was neglecting us, neglecting you." They continued walking, each step seeming to bring them a little closer. "Maybe we needed this wake-up call," Carol suggested. We've both been complacent, taking our relationship for granted. Daniel nodded, appreciating her insight. Yes, and it's not just on you. I should have spoken up sooner when I felt you drifting away. I let my pride and fear get in the way of expressing how I felt. As they talked, they began to rediscover the ease of communication they once shared. They discussed their daily routines, their dreams, and even their fears, uncovering the small gaps that had widened into significant distances between them. The morning turned into afternoon, and they found a secluded spot under the shade of a palm tree. Sitting side by side, they continued their conversation, delving deeper into what they both needed from their relationship. I need to know that I'm still your partner, not just your wife who you see at the end of the day, Carol expressed, her eyes meeting his. I need more us time, more moments like this where it's just about you and me. And I need to be more present, Daniel acknowledged. Not just physically, but emotionally. I've been hiding behind my work, using it as an excuse to avoid dealing with our issues. They agreed to set new priorities for their relationship, promising to schedule regular date nights and to check in with each other more frequently about their feelings and needs. Feeling lighter and more connected, they spent the rest of the day exploring the island, enjoying activities together like snorkeling and kayaking. Each shared activity brought laughter and lightheartedness, slowly knitting the fabric of their relationship back together. As the day drew to a close, they had dinner at a beachfront restaurant, the sky painted with streaks of orange and pink. Over a meal of fresh seafood and tropical fruits, they planned the rest of their week, filled with more explorations and opportunities to strengthen their bond. That night, as they lay in bed listening to the distant sound of the waves, Daniel turned to Carol. Today was a good day, he said softly, his hand finding hers in the darkness. It was, Carol agreed, her voice steady and sure. And there will be more good days to come, I promise. With renewed hope and commitment, they drifted off to sleep, the challenges of the past days slowly receding like the tides, replaced by the promise of a new beginning. As Isla Escondida worked its magic, Daniel and Carol rediscovered not just the beauty of their surroundings, but also the deeper beauty of their relationship, proving that even in paradise, the real joy comes from the connection shared between two people. The warmth of the morning sun filtered through the curtains as Daniel and Carol awoke to another picturesque day on Isla Escondida. After yesterday's breakthrough, they felt a renewed sense of partnership, eager to continue building on the foundations they had started to repair. Today's plan involved a guided nature hike through the lush trails of the island, something both looked forward to with anticipation. As they prepared for the day, the air between them felt lighter, filled with an easy banter that had been missing for too long. During breakfast, they met their guide, Marco, who briefed them on the route and what to expect. The trail promised views of exotic wildlife and rare flora, culminating in a stunning waterfall. Energized by the prospect of adventure, Daniel and Carol set off with Marco leading the way. As they hiked, the dense greenery enveloped them, the sounds of the jungle vibrant and alive. Daniel and Carol listened intently as Marco pointed out various bird species and plants, each with its own unique story. The physical activity combined with the beauty of nature helped to further ease the tensions of the past weeks. Halfway through the hike, they reached a natural lookout point offering breathtaking views of the island. Here, they paused to take in the scenery. Marco excused himself, giving them some privacy. Standing together, overlooking the vast expanse of lush forest and distant ocean, Carol turned to Daniel. You know, this reminds me of our early years, when we used to go on those spontaneous road trips, no destination in mind, just us and the road. Daniel smiled, recalling the memories. I loved those trips. It was about the journey, not just the destination. Maybe we need more of that in our lives, more journeys together. Carol nodded in agreement. Let's promise to make that happen. More journeys, more adventures, just the two of us. The conversation shifted towards their future, discussing not only their personal lives, but also their professional aspirations and how they could support each other better. It was a deep and meaningful exchange that solidified their commitment to not only mend but also enhance their relationship. The hike continued, and when they finally reached the waterfall, the sight was even more spectacular than they had imagined. The water cascaded down with a soothing sound, creating a mist that felt refreshing against their skin. They spent time there, enjoying the serenity of the environment, allowing the natural beauty to reinforce the peacefulness and positivity that was growing between them. On the hike back, Carol took Daniel's hand, a simple gesture, but one filled with meaning. "Today was perfect," she said. "Thank you for being here, for making this effort with me." Daniel squeezed her hand back, his heart full. "Thank you for being open and for walking this path with me, in every sense." That evening, as they returned to the resort, they attended a cooking class offered by a local chef, learning how to prepare traditional island dishes. The activity was fun and engaging, allowing them to work together and enjoy the fruits of their labor afterward. As they ate the meal they had prepared, laughter and light conversation flowed easily. It was clear that the distance that had once threatened their marriage was closing, replaced by a closeness that came from genuine effort and mutual understanding. Later, as they walked along the beach under a starry sky, Daniel felt a profound gratitude for the progress they had made. The challenges they had faced seemed less daunting now, with the assurance that they were on this journey together, stronger and more connected than they had been in years. Their time on Isla Escondida was more than just a vacation. It was a turning point, a reminder of what they had and what they could build upon. As the waves lapped gently at the shore, both felt a sense of anticipation for the days ahead, knowing that each step they took was a step towards a renewed, more vibrant life together. The following day on Isla Escondida dawned bright and clear, with a gentle breeze that promised another perfect day in paradise. Daniel and Carol, now feeling rejuvenated from the previous day's activities and conversations, decided to spend the morning scuba diving, a first for Carol and a beloved hobby for Daniel. After a quick breakfast, they met with the diving instructor, a seasoned diver named Elena who radiated calm and confidence. She equipped them with gear and briefed them on safety protocols and the underwater marvels they could expect to see. The anticipation built as they boarded the small boat that would take them to the dive site. The ocean was a brilliant azure, its surface shimmering under the sun. As they anchored near the reef, Daniel could sense Carol's excitement, mixed with a hint of nervousness. He gave her a reassuring smile, squeezing her hand before they plunged into the cool, clear water. Underwater, the world transformed. They were greeted by a kaleidoscope of colors and movements, vibrant corals, schools of shimmering fish, and the occasional lazy sea turtle gliding through the water. Carol was mesmerized, her initial apprehension replaced by awe. They communicated through hand signals, pointing out different species and marveling at the underwater landscape. After about an hour, they resurfaced, exhilarated by the experience. "That was incredible," Carol exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's like a whole other world down there." Daniel laughed, happy to see her so animated. "It's one of my favorite places to be. I'm glad I got to share it with you." They spent the rest of the morning lounging on the boat, talking about the dive and what they had seen. The conversation drifted to deeper topics, discussing not just their relationship, but their personal aspirations and the dreams they still wanted to pursue. "It's important to me that we support each other's dreams, no matter how big or small," Carol said thoughtfully. "I know I've been so caught up in my work that I might have overlooked yours. I want to change that." Daniel nodded, appreciating her words. "And I'll do the same. I know I can be a bit single-minded about my work, but I want to be there for you too, not just physically but in all the ways that count." Feeling content and connected, they headed back to the resort for lunch, then spent the afternoon relaxing by the pool, each reading a book but occasionally sharing a look or a laugh. As the sun began to set, they prepared for a special evening the resort had organized, a beachside dinner for couples, complete with torchlights and live music. The setting was romantic, with tables set along the shoreline and the gentle waves providing a soothing backdrop. Over dinner, they continued their reflective conversations, appreciating the chance to really talk without the distractions of daily life. "This trip has been eye-opening," Daniel remarked. "I've learned so much about us, about what we need to do to keep our relationship strong." Carol agreed, her hand reaching across the table to hold his. "It's been amazing, and I feel like we're rediscovering each other all over again." "I love you, Daniel, more than ever." As they enjoyed dessert, a duo began playing soft music, and several couples started dancing on the sand. Daniel stood, offering his hand to Carol. "May I have this dance?" With a smile, Carol accepted, and they joined the other couples, dancing under the stars, surrounded by the rhythmic sounds of the ocean and the soft strumming of guitars. The evening was a beautiful affirmation of their renewed commitment to each other. As they danced, Daniel knew that this journey they had embarked on was just beginning, and he was more confident than ever that they would face the future together, stronger and more in love than they had been in years. As the week on Isla Escondida progressed, each day seemed to deepen the bond between Daniel and Carol, rebuilding and reinforcing the foundations of their marriage that had been eroded by time and neglect. The island's secluded beauty provided the perfect backdrop for introspection and conversation, offering them a rare opportunity to step away from the pressures of their daily lives. On their final full day at the resort, they decided to take a sunrise kayaking trip around the island. The sea was calm, reflecting the pastel hues of the morning sky as they paddled in sync, the gentle splash of their oars the only sound in the serene silence. As they rounded a bend, a secluded cove came into view, its waters crystal clear and inviting. They beached their kayaks and took a moment to enjoy the peace of the secluded spot. Sitting side by side on the sand, they watched the sun rise, its rays painting the sky in golds and pinks. "This feels like a new beginning," Carol murmured, leaning her head on Daniel's shoulder. "It does," Daniel agreed. "I think we needed this time away, not just to escape but to truly connect without distractions." They talked about the future, discussing practical steps to ensure they did not fall back into old patterns once they returned home. They agreed to prioritize their relationship, setting regular dates to check in with each other emotionally, and to ensure they maintained the open communication they had re-established during their time on the island. "I think we should also consider continuing counseling," Daniel suggested. "It could help us keep on track and deal with any issues before they become problems." Carol nodded. "I agree. Let's do it. Anything that helps us keep this feeling alive, this connection we've rediscovered." As they paddled back to the resort, they felt a sense of accomplishment, not just for the physical activity but for the emotional ground they had covered. They had tackled difficult conversations and faced uncomfortable truths, but they had done so together, emerging stronger. The rest of the day was spent leisurely, soaking in the last of the island's serene vibes. They walked along the beach, collected shells, and took photos, capturing memories of a trip that had transformed their relationship. In the evening, the resort hosted a farewell dinner for guests leaving the next day. The dining area was decorated beautifully, with lights strung between palm trees and live local music adding to the ambience. Daniel and Carol enjoyed a delicious meal, chatting with other guests, many of whom shared their own stories of rejuvenation and romance. As they returned to their room later that evening, they packed their bags in comfortable silence, each thoughtful about the return to their everyday lives. Before turning in for the night, they stood on their balcony, looking out at the ocean, a vast expanse under the starlit sky. "We can make our daily life like this, you know," Carol said softly, her hand finding Daniel's. "Maybe not as picturesque, but just as meaningful. We just have to keep choosing each other. Every day?" Daniel squeezed her hand in agreement. "Let's promise to do that. No matter what comes, we face it together, like we did here." As they hugged, feeling the warmth of their renewed commitment, they knew they were leaving Isla Escondida with much more than just memories. They were taking back a revitalized bond, a clearer understanding of each other's needs, and a shared vision for the future. The island had been a beautiful escape, but the real journey, they knew, was just beginning. Page 8. Returning to reality. The morning of their departure from Isla Escondida arrived with a bittersweet air. Daniel and Carol had their bags packed and stood at the balcony of their room, soaking in one last panoramic view of the ocean's vast beauty. They felt a mixture of reluctance to leave and eagerness to bring the lessons learned back into their daily lives. On the flight back, they sat closely, occasionally discussing plans, but often just sharing a comfortable silence, each lost in thoughts about integrating their renewed commitment into their busy routines. Landing back home, the familiar sights and sounds of the city greeted them. It was late afternoon when they reached their apartment. The space felt both welcoming and strangely new, as if they were seeing it with fresh eyes after their transformative journey. The next morning, Daniel and Carol resumed their routines. Daniel headed to his real estate office, feeling a renewed sense of purpose, not just in his work, but also in maintaining the balance between his professional and personal life. Carol returned to the hospital, her interactions with colleagues and patients infused with the newfound resolve to manage her time so that her marriage was no longer sidelined. Despite their good intentions, the transition was not without challenges. The demands of their careers were as pressing as ever, and they found themselves having to consciously make decisions to prioritize their relationship. This often meant saying no to late meetings or social gatherings that would take away from their time together. 3 weeks after their return, they initiated the first of their planned regular check-ins, sitting down in their living room with a glass of wine each. They discussed what was working and what needed adjustment, ensuring that no resentment or misunderstanding simmered beneath the surface. "I've noticed I've been bringing work home more often than I realized," Carol admitted during one of these sessions. "I think I need to be stricter about that boundary. It's not fair to you or to us." Daniel nodded, appreciating her honesty. "I've had to turn down a couple of potential clients because the meetings were scheduled for our us time. It was tough, but I kept reminding myself why we made these rules." As autumn turned to winter, they started attending counseling sessions together. The counselor helped them navigate the complexities of merging their professional lives with their personal commitment. These sessions provided them with tools to communicate effectively and to understand each other's perspectives better. On the professional front, Daniel took steps to delegate more responsibilities to his team, trusting them to handle aspects of the business he would have previously managed himself. This not only improved his work-life balance, but also empowered his team. Carol, on her part, started a wellness program at the hospital to help herself and her colleagues manage stress better. This initiative was well received and brought her a sense of fulfillment that complemented her renewed focus on her marriage. As the year drew to a close, they planned a small holiday getaway, just a weekend upstate. It was nothing as extravagant as Isla Escondida, but the intent was the same: to reconnect and reflect on their journey together. Sitting by the fireplace in a cozy cabin, surrounded by snow-laden trees, Daniel and Carol felt a contentment that had been missing for a long time. The efforts they had put into their relationship had created a stronger bond, and they were learning to find joy in the simple act of being together, no matter the setting. This phase of their life was about understanding that the grand gestures, like their trip to Isla Escondida, were important, but it was the small, everyday choices that truly defined the strength and happiness of their marriage. As winter thawed into spring, Daniel and Carol found that the habits and communication strategies they had cultivated were deeply rooted in their daily lives. However, life, with its inevitable ebb and flow, brought new challenges that tested their commitment and adaptability. One such challenge arose when Daniel was offered a significant opportunity to expand his business into a new city. It was a chance to significantly boost his career, but would require considerable time and travel, potentially upsetting the balance they had worked so hard to achieve. He discussed the opportunity with Carol during one of their evening walks, a routine they had established since their trip. "It's a great opportunity, but I'm worried about what it means for us," Daniel confessed, his voice tinged with both excitement and concern. Carol listened intently, understanding the importance of the opportunity. "I think you should consider it," she encouraged, squeezing his hand. "We've gotten better at this, at supporting each other. We can make it work, as long as we keep communicating and making time for each other." Buoyed by her support, Daniel accepted the offer, and they began planning how to manage the changes. They increased their counseling sessions to once a week, anticipating the need for more support as they navigated this new phase. Meanwhile, Carol faced her own set of challenges when a new administrative role at the hospital was offered to her. It was a promotion she had long hoped for, but it came with increased responsibilities that could encroach on her personal time. Sharing her concerns with Daniel, they used one of their sessions to discuss potential strategies to ensure that her new role wouldn't come at the expense of their relationship. They agreed that Carol would trial the position for a few months, during which they would monitor the situation closely and adjust as necessary. These professional changes brought about a busy season for both Daniel and Carol, yet they were determined not to let their careers overshadow their relationship again. They utilized technology to stay connected, scheduling daily video calls when Daniel was away, and Carol ensured she was home on the evenings Daniel returned from his trips. During one such video call, Daniel, away on business, shared his feelings of loneliness and stress. "It's tough being away so much. I miss you," he admitted, the glow of the laptop illuminating his face in the dim hotel room. "I miss you too," Carol responded, her heart aching with the distance between them. "Let's plan something special for when you get back. Maybe a weekend retreat, just the two of us?" Daniel smiled, grateful for her proactive approach. "I'd love that. It's a date." As spring gave way to summer, they took their weekend retreat, choosing a quiet lakeside cabin where they indulged in long talks, cooked meals together, and enjoyed the simplicity of nature. It was a stark contrast to their hectic work lives and reminded them of the importance of these moments of disconnection from the world and reconnection with each other. Sitting by the lake, watching the sunset, they reflected on the past months. "This year has been full of ups and downs," Carol mused. "But I feel like we're navigating it much better than we would have before." Daniel agreed, his arm around her shoulders. "It's because we're doing it together. No matter what comes our way, we face it as a team." Their journey of growth and adaptation was ongoing, with each new challenge offering an opportunity to strengthen their bond. They understood now more than ever that love was not just a feeling but a daily decision to support, communicate, and prioritize each other above all else. As the year drew to a close, Daniel and Carol found themselves reflecting on the journey they had undertaken since their transformative trip to Isla Escondida. They had navigated professional opportunities and challenges that had tested their resolve, but they emerged more connected and supportive of each other than ever before. During their annual end-of-year reflection, held in the cozy living room of their home with a fire crackling softly in the background, they reviewed the goals they had set and the obstacles they had overcome. They appreciated the growth in their relationship, acknowledging how each challenge had strengthened their bond. "I think this year has really shown us what we're capable of when we truly work together," Daniel said, his eyes meeting Carol's. "I'm proud of us, of how we've handled everything." Carol smiled, her heart full. "Me too. It feels like we've been building something lasting, something resilient. It's not just about getting through the tough times, but growing through them." As a symbol of their renewed commitment, Daniel suggested they renew their vows. "Not a big ceremony, just something for us, a reaffirmation of our promises to each other," he proposed, his voice warm with affection. Carol was touched by the idea. "I would love that. Let's plan it for our anniversary. A quiet celebration on the beach, perhaps, just the two of us." With their plans set for a vow renewal, they spent the rest of the evening making more personal resolutions for the coming year. They decided to continue their counseling sessions, not as a remedy but as a preventive measure and a way to maintain the health of their relationship. They also planned to take at least one vacation a year, just the two of them, to a new destination, ensuring they always had something special to look forward to. These trips would serve as their way to reconnect, away from the pressures of daily life, reminiscent of their pivotal experience in Isla Escondida. On the night of their vow renewal, the beach was peaceful, with only the sound of the waves and the soft rustle of the wind. They stood hand in hand, reciting their vows to each other with the sunset casting a golden glow around them. "Today, I promise once again to love you, to respect you, and to cherish our time together," Daniel said, looking into Carol's eyes, feeling the same surge of emotion as he had on their wedding day. "And I promise to support you, to listen to you, and to build with you. Not just a life, but a legacy of love," Carol responded, her voice steady and sure. They sealed their vows with a kiss, the setting sun a witness to their enduring love. The simplicity of the moment encapsulated the essence of their renewed relationship, deep, thoughtful, and filled with mutual respect. Back at home, as they added new photos from their vow renewal next to old ones from Isla Escondida, they felt a sense of completeness. Their journey together had taught them the value of patience, understanding, and, most importantly, teamwork. As they looked ahead, they knew there would be more challenges, more opportunities to grow and learn. But they faced the future with confidence, knowing they had built a relationship capable of withstanding storms and basking in sunrises alike. A true partnership that would continue to flourish through all of life's seasons.